Don't be stupid. Don't be stupid. Don't be stupid. Don't be stupid. Attaboy. Whew. All right, good morning, world. Back here in the cave again. Temperatures are dropping just like that. It's funny. I think Sarah's going to actually flash up the wood stove here shortly. She woke up. I'm so cold. It's funny how the ladies get colder than the men outside and indoors much quicker than we do. But anyway, quick note. I've got some emails to share, some voices to be heard, which is the main mission of my YouTube channel here. But I'm going to do a quick little mention here. A lot of people are freaking out about poor Jimmy Kimmel being taken off the air, right? But No matter what side of the line you're on, doesn't matter to me. But make sure you take note that if only today you find yourself blowing a gasket because Jimmy Kimmel got silenced and taken off the air, you're a little late to the game. Um, the UK has arrested over 12,000 of its citizens for making social media posts that they didn't like. Arrested over 12,000 citizens for what they thought they had was free speech. Apparently they don't. I'm not sure how many of the Jimmy Kimmel fans have raised a voice about that one alone. Germany has and still is, I think they're arresting over 30 people a day on average just for social media posts. And they have arrested and beaten up thousands of citizens just for making a social media post that the German government doesn't like. Australia has arrested thousands. Right in front of the children, coming and getting housewives, walking in their home, you see it on video, and taking them away and putting them in a cage away from their children, in front of the children, arresting them for making social media posts that they didn't like. Right? So if you find yourself raging today about Jimmy Kimmel, who I feel, I'll talk about him in a second maybe. If you find yourself raging today about the violation of free speech, you're not even in the parking lot, let alone the game. Do you guys remember when the COVID debacle hit the planet? And I was actually in Asia when it went down. We narrowly got home. We were in China when we got home when they shut down everything. And it didn't take me more than about, I don't know, an hour to figure out we were being screwed. And even today, just so you know, well, back up a bit. So do you remember though, I was getting taken off of, given timeouts and put in YouTube jail numerous times because of what I was saying publicly about that, right? That was years ago. I've been ringing the alarm bell about free speech and getting screwed for a long time, and they tried to make me pay the price, but I figured out how to maintain my speech, right? I soon realized that if I had a second channel and I got in trouble on the original channel, I could still post in the second channel. It was only the original channel that was getting a spanking. And that's where my second channel came from, the backup, right? But they were trying to take my voice away years ago because of the COVID thing and what I was saying and pointing out for true facts and reality. And then it turns out today the medical community has now come out public to say and state the fact that the vaccination has killed more people globally than the virus. Fact, look it up, right? Anyway, what I'm saying is the war on free speech didn't just start with poor Jimmy Kimmel. And on that topic, I love comedy. I love laughing my ass off. I love it. I remember when I first moved out of my own years ago, a teenager. Had a roommate buddy of mine, and I'm like, holy shit, I can actually eat a bowl of Fruit Loops anytime I feel like it, And I remember thinking, holy shit, I can stay up and watch late night comedy television. Used to watch Johnny Carson, laugh my face off. Used to watch David Letterman back in the day and laugh my face off. And then all of a sudden the late night TV just became absolute political attacks and trying to, what I saw, I've never really watched the Jimmy Kimmel show too much because it didn't take me long, sitting on the fence, didn't take me long to realize, holy shit, this guy's an asshole, man. He's trying to create divide nonstop. He was celebrating people getting taken off air. He was celebrating people getting doxxed. He was promoting divide nonstop. I'm like, holy shit. I remember thinking years ago, this guy needs a frickin' punch in the face. What a dick. As a Canadian, some people even messaged me and said, you're Canadian, you better watch what you say and blah, 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 mind your own business. Really? American television is watched and globally, and American television has a lot of impact on what goes on in the world. So yeah, I get to say whatever the F I want. But anyway, I remember taking note of that. I don't give a shit what side of the political line he was on, but I could see clearly him, who else, that other Jimmy guy with the absolute most annoying phony laugh and phony demeanor and phony delivery I've ever seen in a human being, because I'm good at reading people. They were just, and there's another guy too that took over the Letterman show, I think. They're just creating divide, 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 divide. And I saw that clearly. Anyway, all I'm saying is, I'd like to point out that the free speech that you may find yourself raging about right now because of that poor prick, you've missed. You're not even in the game yet. You're not even in the parking lot. The war on free speech, the attack on free speech, has been going on for quite some time. Quite some time. And if you find yourself only now echoing people going, they took away his freedom of speech, oh my God, got to protest. Oh, shut up. You're not even in the game. You missed it. You're being manipulated. You're easily being manipulated, actually. But anyway, there you go, you guys. If you're going to get angry about something, you better really seriously have concern and be looking into it and seeing what's going on globally, because we've all been getting screwed globally for quite some time. And right now, a lot of truth is coming out. And then it's going to be up to you to get clued in, start thinking independently, and go with your gut and realize what's really going on, what's fact, what isn't, and not be told, not be persuaded, not be herded, not be shamed into going one direction. It's up to you to figure it out. I wonder how many people out there have been easily manipulated and persuaded into thinking or speaking on one side of a line without knowing it, and then figured out that they were later on. How many people are big enough to admit that? Admit that you're being misled, misdirected, coerced, herded into thinking a certain way or speaking a certain way. And I guarantee you there's millions, especially when it came to the COVID thing. I still know friends of mine, a friend of mine down the road, one of my best friends, his mother still hasn't spoken to him because of the vaccination thing over 3 years ago. Right? And now, anyway, you know what I'm getting at. There's a lot of people attacked their friends and neighbors and lost friends because they wouldn't wear a mask. You know what I mean? I wonder what those same people are thinking now when they're presented with the facts that the vaccination, the forced vaccine poison, has killed more people than the frickin' virus. I still see the divide with those people. I don't see them apologizing and coming forward saying, holy shit, was I wrong? There's been a handful, but all right, I'm babbling. There you go. There's my thoughts on that, all right? I'm not going to carry into it. It's been, as usual, the internet's being hammered on and flooded with the same topics, getting beat to death with a stick by various influencers, the many channels talking about that same shit nonstop. And I try not to slide into that category, but sometimes you got to say something. You know what I mean? Personally, I think Jimmy Kimmel's a prick. I think he's paid to create divide and paid to go a certain direction. That's what I believe. That's what my gut screams to me. Maybe you disagree with me. That's fine. I don't care. You're still welcome here. This is my house, and you're still welcome here. If you disagree with me, I don't mind. I don't care at all. That's fine. I'll even listen to your half of the story. I don't mind. Do you know what I mean? If you don't disagree with what I say or believe or feel, that's fine. Here, I'll still have a beer with you. I'll still fight to protect you. You know? I'll still fight to protect you. And even when it comes to a lot of topics we bring up here, you know, you look at what happened to Bobby Short and why I have made it. Actually, I might even dive into Bobby Short today, make sure she gets heard again. The amount of people in this so-called Bigfoot community, which, nope, I am not a member. I am not a member of the so-called Bigfoot community. I'm not. A lot of those evil sons of bitches went way out of their way to destroy her because they didn't want her to speak. Right? Look what they did. The same evil sons of bitches did to Melba Ketchum. Right? It's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's funny. It's sad in a way. It's sad how common it is. Isn't it bizarre? How common it is for humans to turn on other humans because they don't believe or act or go through life the way they want them to. You need to think like me. And if you don't, I'm going to destroy you. Now today, I'm going to kill you. You know? But anyway, that's been basically the main fuel for me to do what I do here today is to make sure I fight back. And no, you're not going to shut me up. Bobby Short's passed away physically, but you haven't shut her up yet, have you, because of all of us here? You know what I mean? Anyway. There you go. Chew on that one. What? If there's actually, I don't think there's enough, I don't think there's too many people here left that are absolutely weak between the ears and blow a gasket because of what I say. Go, I'm out of here. I'm unsubscribing. I don't think so. Who knows? Maybe it'll happen after my little babble here. Maybe it won't. Who gives a shit? Nobody was asked to come here. That's for sure. Right? And I say that as a fact, not being a dick. I'm going to say it. Nobody's asked to come to this channel once. Never. But everybody's welcome. Every single human being that comes across this channel on their own digging is welcome to come here. And you're treated with respect, no matter what. Until you're not respectful, and then this community here, this built up here, basically gobbles up people alive and spits them out in the corner for coming here and being a dick. But everybody's welcome here, you know? I don't care what side of the fence you sit on politically or when it comes to a lot of the talks we talk about. I don't give a flying shit. As long as you get heard, as long as the people get heard, but the second you blow a gasket and try to shut people up or demean them, insult them, well, you're out. And you're out for good. That's it. You're done. Well, moving along. Moving forward without you. You're just a speed bump then. A speed bump in a community. All right. Yeah, I've had my 2 coffees. Now, moving along to make sure every single frickin' voice gets heard. No matter what. Right? What do we got here? I haven't a clue. Looks like a lengthy one. We're going in. Hello from Paul in England. Sounds like my neighbor's cracked open a jackhammer. You probably can't hear it, but I can. I know it's a busy time of the year for you with hunting and other commitments, so I thank you in advance for taking the time and interest to read what I have to say. What I'm about to write might sound fantastical and a little beyond belief, but I would not lie to you or insult your intelligence with a pack of bull. It may be that what I have to say has no relevance to Sasquatch, but I would ask you to keep an open mind and decide for yourself if what I have to say is of interest to yourself or to any other party that you might think be interested. I know, Steve, that you know more about, to quote you, quote, these beings, end quote. And I understand you wish to let people discover and decide what they think they are for themselves. Admirable, as most so-called Sasquatch authorities tell us what they are, or indeed what they think they are. First, a little about myself. My name is Paul Kitchenham. I live in the far southeast of England. I'm a dock worker, an interest in fishing, shooting, and brought my 2 lads up to be able to do both these sports, and quite well. We camped and built camps for overnight stays in local woods, foraged for food, mushrooms, berries, and nuts at certain times of the year, and even took a finger full of honey from the local disused beehives so the local kids and mine could have a healthy respect for nature. I'm no expert in any field. I discovered your channel several months ago and follow with avid interest your hunting and Sasquatch stories. Your no bullshit approach is amazing, and you have a very good gift for holding your audience and leaving us wanting more. Hunting for deer here is for the overprivileged, and something that is beyond my abilities to afford such. Besides, out-licensing laws with regards to rifles is so tight that it is now almost impossible to be granted one. The people's fault. It's only the people's fault there, and we're guilty here too. I what I'm saying. So thank you for allowing people such as myself to live our dreams through your adventures. I was in Canada in 1982, a beautiful place. I stayed in Regina and then went through the Rockies, Banff, Jasper, Lethbridge, and down into the States. A great journey. Now, here comes the hard part for me. Hoping I do not sound silly to someone I've never met yet, highly respect. Besides my interest in wildlife, hunting, I've always taken an interest in the paranormal. Bigfoot, UFO, etc. Nothing was too far-fetched for my interest. I had some experiences when I was young with regard to UFOs and psychic happenings, of which I will not go into here, as I wish not to take up too much of your valuable time. Needless to say that I helped bring up the two boys, which took most of my time and energy. I relinquished my interest in such until some 15 years ago, when I decided that I would reestablish myself with my interests, as it was now my time. The boys had grown up and were doing their own thing. I found myself drawn more and more to a branch of physic ability called physical mediumship, a rare form of physic ability whereby a medium has the ability, with the use of a circle of like-minded people, to produce ectoplasm, and in some instances, fully formed, shall we call them spirits for now, of peoples who had passed over to the other realm. I was invited by a friend to lunch many years ago with someone, I cannot recall his name, who talked of a theory he had. He called it the polythene theory, about layers of other realms that were possibly living alongside us, and from time to time these realms overlapped, and on a few occasions this had been shown to peoples. I suppose it was in his eyes an early form of quantum physics. I hope I still have your attention. Here come the fantastical bit. I attended a physical circle for the first time a number of years ago and was astounded to hear in the dark, the seances held in a pitch-black room, a disembodied voice give the reasons that spirit come in on a vibration and that light is damaging to their energy. I watched with trumpets and voices coming from them fly around the room at incredible speed, stopping inches from people's faces. Incredible. The seances ended and I was hooked. I spoke at length with people, telling of the marvels that I had seen, only to have the pee ripped out of me, belittled, and made to look like a fool, but it didn't stop me. On the second occasion, the medium was tied into a chair with his cardigan wire tied up the front. Please remember this. I was sitting down and there was a loud bang, and please remember this. Spirit came through and asked for Moldavite. Me. Put your hand up, the voice said. I replied, but I cannot see you. He replied, I'm coming over to see you. Steve, we are sitting in 3 rows of peoples with the chair in front being 3 inches from my knees, and I could feel the peoples either side of me. Yet in a split second, my neighbor yelled, he's standing on my foot. The spirit apologized, and a huge hand grabbed mine from the front, shook it vigorously, whilst a second massive hand slapped me on the back, thanking me for all I have done to promote spirit. There was a wall behind me. How could this be done? Within a split second, he was back on the other side of the room. Now, possibility of the link with Sasquatch. Tree knocking. Is it tree knocking? Or is it Sasquatch using the same energy to materialize or come through from another realm? Now you have mentioned the Sasquatch has the ability to move incredibly quickly. Spirit, as you have read, has that same ability. 1 minute it's there, the next it is moved. At the end of the seance, Spirit asked that as soon as the seance ended, the lights be put on with a loud bang. The lights were put on. The medium was, there's a bunch of punctuation missing. Okay, I'm trying to make it smooth, you guys. Let me read that again. There's all one sentence. Oh, hold on. I'll try to do it smooth. At the end of the seance, Spirit asked that as soon as the seance ended, the lights be put on. With a loud bang, the lights were put on. The medium was still tied to the chair that was teleported out of the cabinet and landed in the middle of the room, and the medium's cardigan was still wire tied, but was back to front. On another occasion, shoes were removed from mine and other feet and thrown around the room. Dave Plattis and the missing boots comes to mind. I was told by Spirit, or those purporting to be Spirit, that once you have shown an interest in them, that you are like a beacon. They know you're open to them, and that they can make themselves known to you. Again, your video mentioned that a friend of yours has had numerous encounters with these Sasquatch beings, even a photo of the reflection in the river of one. once interest was shown in them. Spirit, I have seen out of the corner of my eye when I made full eye contact. Spirit, this is all one sentence. Spirit, I have seen out of the corner of my eye when I made full eye contact. It just melted away, only to come back once I looked away again. Crossed the room and melted. Sasquatch seems also to show just glimpses of themselves to start with. If fear is shown, do people still see them, I wonder? Or do they keep their distance? In the realm of the spirit, there are good and bad, so I have been told. Bad meaning quite nasty encounters such as poltergeist activity and scratches made on people's. The same as Sasquatch. Some people's encounters have been darn frightening. Others have been enlightening with little fear. I'm wondering if you can see the resemblance between the two. In one seance, apports have appeared. That's capital A, P-P-O-T-R-S. Apports have appeared. Items moved from outside the seance room to within, and vice versa. Is it some form of teleportation? Remember, the medium's chair was moved through the air to land in the middle of the room. In seances of old, these apports have come from miles away. Does the missing 401 come to mind? People disappear and are found miles away on high cliffs, impossible to reach, or on other sides of the mountains and even found in areas already searched. Some others are never found. Remember what I was told about vibration. Your friend guiding up the river heard God Almighty sound that reverberated right through him. They headed back to the boats at the inlet, and yet 400 yards from where they first heard the screams, it still went through them. Many times I've read of people feeling exactly the same thing. The sound went right through me. Could it be that Sasquatch was using this vibration to exit this realm? I was also told that in the world as we are now, it is hard for this energy or vibration to come through in built-up areas such as cities and polluted with light pollution and radio waves, mobile phone waves, electricity, etc., and it would be much more powerful in areas that were free from these pollutants. Where are Sasquatch seen more than anywhere? BC, Oregon National Parks, the Rockies, with very little of this pollution, if any. There we have it. I've laid my soul bare. I've called these being spirits. I do not know if they are. I have called these being spirits. I do not know if they are or if they are some part of a bigger plan that I am unaware of. I don't think Sasquatch is an ape or a monkey. I would not be so insulting to them. I know they are some form of being. Or what do I know? They must be some form of flesh and blood to throw things at peoples. Could they do this using telekinesis? I think you meant, or could they do this using telekinesis? I have no idea if there's a link between the two, but it does seem to be a reoccurring theme. Runs alongside each other. I'm sitting in my little house in a village south of Canterbury on a miserable day, putting pen to paper, trying to cross ideas that seem prosperous and darn right silly. But I have made my choice, and here it is. Thanks, Steve, for taking the time to read. Stay safe, keep the stories coming, and thanks again for taking us all with you through your stories on your journey. Please do what you will with this email. If you feel that you can pass it on to others that might be of interest, then please do. If not, then at least another story of a mad Englishman's ideas might enlighten a few friends down the local pub. LOL. No, yes. Meant to say a huge thank you for the photographer you use about time. She has a mention. Huh? A little early, but have a great Christmas and good hunting. Highest regards always, Paul. And there you go. Well, I don't know, man. I mean, there's obviously a lot of shit going on that's really, really alarming and weird around the planet. And the seance thing, not my cup of tea. Not me. I avoid that shit. Spirits, no thanks. Using us to come through, not me, I hope. I've shared about earlier, I attempted the Ouija board thing when I was about 19 years old. And there was 5 people in the room. And I had my hands on that. had my fingers lightly touching a little piece of plastic. And there was 2 girls also, there's 3 of us touching this thing and asking it questions, and the thing just started moving around. I don't know if it was the girls doing it, I don't know. But then, and nobody in the room knew what a Norwegian relative of mine's name was, and it was spelled really odd, very odd name. And I asked the, whatever was the game, to spell the name. And it went boom, 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 boom. Spelt it perfectly. I'm like, whoa. And then I asked her how many sisters I had, and then it went boom. And then I'm like, that's it, I'm good, I'm out. I want nothing to do with this shit. My gut was screaming, this is wrong for me. It's wrong for me. And I've never looked at one of those things ever again. And always as well, the occult, dark themed movies really make me feel bad and creepy. And I avoid those. I'm not into it. Anyways, what I'm saying is the seance thing and looking into spirits from another realm or past spirits, people that have passed on. Like I said earlier, I was listening to someone a while back when I had a lot of interest in the near-death experiences, and somebody said flat out, your time's going to be up here fast enough. Maybe concentrate on being alive and having fun and enlightening yourself, because you will know about the afterlife soon enough. Your life will come to an end soon enough. Why waste time looking into it while you're here? And that kind of punched me in the face a little bit, like dunk. Oh, yeah, that's a pretty valid statement, right? And I don't know. I mean, what would all of the people, your friends who are interested in this group, these seancers, what do they hope to get out of it? What do they hope to get out of it? I mean, obviously it's going to be amazing and scary. And holy shit, see that? Clothes on backwards, shoes missing. Wow, I just got touched by something unknown. Has to be dark. I think the mention of the light, bright light affecting their energy, that should be, I believe, alarming to human beings. Anything that needs the dark to thrive probably isn't good for us. Does all of this have anything to do with these large, hairy, upright, human-like beings that are running around, scaring the shit out of a lot of people just from being? I don't know. Because I know nothing about the seance thing, and I don't have any curiosity of it. But one thing for me that I've accepted as fact is that these people that we are seeing and affecting us in the outdoors and our homes, our rural homes, they can do things that we can't, to put it simply. Why is that? I'm not quite sure yet. It's a big question, though. Why is that? You know what I mean? Why? Anyways, I hope I rambled enough to answer some questions there, or how I feel. Careful, man. You careful of the paths you choose in life. You know what I mean? My gut screams to enjoy and do what you love to do and perfect the activities you want to perfect. Help people, be kind, and take it from there. And whatever comes at the end of this ride, well, we'll see, right? Oh, what is this? I don't know what this is. There's 2 emails, follow-up email at the top and a lengthy one at the bottom. Let's start with the lengthy one at the bottom. Hi, Steve. I hope this reaches you personally. To begin, I would like your hunt prices for elk, moose, and mule deer. I don't see it on your website. I don't sell hunts. Next, a story concerning those damn things you've decided to apply some time with. The question is, which story? As I, like you, was raised at the edge of wilderness and spent all my time as a youth and adult in the mountains. I'm 60 at this time, and I also guided and made drop hunts for some great hunters and friends. I guess to start, my first experience probably set me up to have the same mind frame as you do for the subject of the ancient tribes that lives in our forest. In 1979, I was working in the Grants Pass area building a bridge and hit it off with one of our new hires. I took him fly fishing on the Rogue River, and he in turn invited myself and my wife to spend the weekend in the Kalmiopsis Wilderness, 8 miles behind a locked gate at one of 3 cabins in a mining claim. After entering the gate, it was 8 miles, 4x4, low range to the cabin. Upon getting to the cabin, I noticed a pungent smell around the cabin I did not recognize. and noticed no sign of or sound of wildlife, frogs, crickets, etc., in the immediate area. My wife assessed the situation and stated, "I'm not going to the outhouse alone at night, about 50 yards from the cabin." I asked the caretaker about the immediate area and the creek about 1/4 mile below the cabin, and he said it had great fishing and dumped into the ocean a couple miles downstream. So, with an uneventful night, other than being way too quiet, first thing in the morning I was off to the creek with my fly pole, with my Australian Kelpie dog Grizz to guard me. I say guard me as I usually at that time only carried a .22 pistol for snakes, and Grizz lived up to his name as he would take on bull, cattle, or bear. No problem, right? So we made it to the creek, crossed and started up the opposite bank as I saw a pool and run in that direction. I stayed way up on the gravel bank and was starting my cast to the creek so as not to scare the fish. I had just made water on my second cast when I heard a disruption on the ridge to my right and on my side of the creek. I say disruption because it was a noise like I've never heard before. It was like a growl, huff, howl. Then a big-ass crash. I started winding in my line quickly so I could face and confront what was occurring. The ridge was a rocky razorback that tied to the creek about 50 yards ahead of me. In razorback, I mean it was rough enough and narrow so that a rock rolled would go off one side or the other, not down the middle of it, with huge old-growth timber that had never been logged. I looked up the ridge from where the sound was being emitted, and I heard a big thump and a crash, which then started down the razorback, with different trees being hit, shook, branches and brush being thrown towards me and Grizz, coming closer at an amazing rate of speed, then stopped about 50 yards ahead near the creek, in dead silence. My attention went to Grizz, who at this point decided he was going to approach and attack whatever had disrupted our quiet morning, and was threatening his human. He got to about 25 yards from the disruption, stopped, put his nose up, then promptly spun and ran past me, heading back towards the cabin, I assumed. I totally forgot about being armed or being a tough-ass 20-year-old mountain-raised man and attempted to beat him to the cabin, which I did not accomplish. I do remember the same smells around the cabin hitting my senses about the time Grizz ran by me. My wife asked what was wrong, as Grizz had beat me to the cabin and she knew he would never leave my side, ever. I explained with loss of breath and stated we're cutting this trip short, on which she agreed. I've never told this story until this year, as I didn't want my manhood questioned. We later visited Oregon caves, and I picked up a book that described an attack on 3 mining cabins in the Kalmiopsis by Bigfoot creatures that fit the mines we were at. I brought my wife's attention to the book and asked, "Do you suppose?" Because when she asked what I thought had ran Grizz and I off the river, I simply replied, "I don't know, but it was big and bad." A couple years later, we were driving to a project at Quinault at about 3 a.m. We were about halfway to Quinault from Aberdeen, Washington, when I lit up a huge-ass beast with about 1 million candle-power headlamps and running lights on the bank on the corner at about 25 yards. I say huge because it was at least 8 feet tall, standing on an 8-foot bank, which put its head about 16 feet above us. We could see from its navel to the top of its head perfectly clear, as it had 2 10 to 12-inch alders spread with its hands, and was looking directly into our lights. I will say shoulder to shoulder was impressive, at least 3.5 to 4 feet wide, and had less hair on his face, chest, and hands, and it was black in appearance. The lines on its face were also impressive, huge. The road was wet, and I hit the brakes, spinning the light to the area the creature had been standing to see the 2 alders swaying back into their upright position. I was trying to get my senses back when my wife asked if I was going to get out and look for tracks. I said, "Did you see what I saw?" She said, "Yes, a Bigfoot." And at that point I said, "Nope, I'm good." Once again, until this year, neither of us spoke of either of these experiences or the many, many other experiences I've had hunting, burying, mushrooming, and hunting wood in our mountains. I've always kind of tried to ignore them and their sign in the woods. And as we spend much of our time in the mountains, I've been asked, what would you do if confronted by one of these things? My answer? I now pack a 460 Smith & Wesson. I hope any confrontation is nice on their part. We do at this time photograph some of the prints and structures we find, which I may say are about to overload my phone. Thanks for your backing. The subject does need to be explained to the general public for protection and knowledge, if nothing more. I, like you, do not believe them primate. There's too much weird in connection with them, as tracks don't just disappear in the middle of a snow-filled meadow after 3 miles of tracking. Please let us know if you're ever threatened by higher powers due to your approach in the subject, because we have your back as well. My sincere regards and good luck, Al Davis, Eastern Oregon. Al, appreciate that email, man. Oh, here's another one. Sorry, then this other follow-up email. P.S. I will add that the creature at the Kalmiopsis was defiant bipedal? I was counting 3 to 5 stomping steps between trees that it would hit and shake before throwing brush and sticks about approximately 25 yards between trees. Then boom, 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 crash. Well, you get the idea. Big and badass. Don't take any shit out. I won't, Al. And appreciate the mention of having my back. Appreciate that big time, because I got yours too. Welcome to the club. It sounds like you've seen a lot. You've seen a lot. There you go. And as soon as he said the description of what it was doing, it ran me back to that time. A childhood friend of mine who owns a remote fly-in only, boat-in only fishing lodge mid Vancouver Island, West Coast. And he's the one that took his client up the river this time of year, going after coho, or October, going after fly fishing, spawning coho salmon in the river. And he was at the lead with the one client. They left the Zodiacs. He took the client farther up the river, 400 yards roughly from the other guests in the other Zodiac, who were all outside, out of the beach Zodiacs, fly fishing for coho in the river. And he heard a scream that basically vibrated their souls. And they said, let's get the hell out of here. It's coming from the dark timber on the opposite side of the river, a little bit farther upriver. And they turned around and took off back, and had to go around the bend before they could see the other guests 400 yards away, and they were already in the other Zodiac getting ready to get the hell out of there. That's what that sound did to all those people. And he had to go back there a few days later, and that's where he found the upside down log with the root system on it, stuffed into the middle of the pool that him and that client were going to fish. Anyway, and he took it to the elders. He took that experience to the native elders in that community, Cayucot, and they just laughed and said, "Oh, you got told to F off, huh?" or something like that, or "You got yelled at, huh?" And they started laughing. Anyway, after I guided up there to give him a hand, it was hunting season, and he was texting me, and I shared the text here. And 2 of his native guides were spotlighting elk in between Tassis and Gold River. And they said, and it was just went down when he texted me, just went down. And they said they were out of the truck, shining a light on a herd of elk up in the clear cut, and this thing was right in front of them in mature alders, going ape shit, rattling the shit out of the alders, and bending them back and forth like nothing. Anyway, sorry, but as soon as he said that thing pushed those big alders sideways like curtains, it took me right back to that account of the 2 native guides having that thing rattling those mature alders like nothing on Vancouver Island here a few years back. Yeah, rambling, sorry. What do we got here? Pretty long one. I'm going in. No title in this email. Shit, I forgot I was gonna. I'll put Bobby's book in front of me to make sure I dive in it, and I make sure I get Bobby's voice heard tomorrow. How's that sound? I was glancing over at the book. Oh yeah, shit, I was going to get Bobby heard. Tomorrow, we'll hear from Bobby Short tomorrow. My background. I'm a farm boy who, in the early 80s, joined the Army and was assigned to 175th Ranger Battalion. I spent the next 10 years as a Ranger and LRRP team leader. In those days, the woods was my home. Encounter 1, date 11th of July 1995. The time was 0400, 11 p.m. local. Location, north of Cummins, Michigan. Clear. The weather was clear, moon phase, full or near full. We had a secluded family cabin deep in a cedar forest on the banks of a river, miles from civilization. Excuse me. It was our base camp for family vacations, hunting, fishing, and winter sports. This particular night, my family had gone to bed, and I went outside to stargaze. And suddenly, off to my right, I heard a baby's cry twice, just across the river. I quickly made my way to the spot. There in the moonlit forest, about 50 feet away, I could see what I thought may be a small herd of deer, maybe 3 or 4. It did occur to me that bobcats and deer did not socialize, but I pressed on. And all at once, a foul stench of wet dog, rotten duck eggs, cow farts, and skunk's ass hit me. I never smelled all things in such a strong combination. And just then, quote, the deer, end quote, spooked and started heading north through the thick cedar. To their front, the ground rose a few hundred feet out of the cedar forest, giving way to open woodland. There was a foot trail just east of me, paralleling the direction the deer were going, so I jumped on it and gave chase. And as I ran towards the hill, the sound of something big crashing through the forest was just to my left. I know once we hit the hill, the deer would head south away from me, coming to a small valley that cutting back west, ending up on the backside of the hill. So I went over the top, expecting to cut them off. And as I crested the hill and started down the backside, the deer were gone. I could see small pine trees whipping back and forth violently at the north end of the valley. I couldn't believe the deer outran me, but I pressed on. And just then I caught another whiff of that odd, foul smell. If the deer kept going, they would run into another thick cedar forest. Hot on their heels, I believe they would head south around a beaver pond and into a clear cut, logged a few months earlier. I moved southwest at a quick pace and soon emerged from the woods above the beaver pond. And as I stood quietly, I heard, then saw, what looked like a very large moose coming from where I expected the deer to be. I'd been chasing a moose, making sounds like a bobcat and smelling like a... Had I been chasing a moose, making sounds like a bobcat and smelling like a city dump? The thought was still rolling around in my head when I realized this moose has no head. It had no backside either, and it's huge. Soon this thing emerged from the tall brush and started uphill about 50 feet from me. I was paralyzed. My pants, real men don't wear underwear, sucked halfway up my ass as the pucker factor went well past 100%. There before me was a very large, hairy, man-like beast, built like an NBA basketball player with no neck. It strolled through the cedar cut like it was walking through a parking lot. Unbelievable. When it turned and headed directly away from me, I could see this beast had a back as wide as 2 men, then shoulders the size of medicine balls. I could clearly see heavily muscles, arms, chest, leg, and back, all covered in hair. As I came to the edge of the clear cut, I made a mental note of the tree limit, narrowly passed under going back into the woods. And at daybreak, I took a big shot of whiskey, and, armed only with a measuring tape, I headed back to the spot I last saw the creature. When I arrived, I scanned the wood nervously as I fumbled with the tape. I hooked the tape on the limb long enough to get the other end to touch the ground. I looked down at the tape and I saw this thing measured over 10 feet tall. Then I shit myself. Encounter 2, date July 2016, time 0700. Location, Berrien Center, Michigan. Weather was clear, Moon phase, full or near full. I was in my motor coach close to my in-laws' house where I would meet up with my wife. I had my window down as I came to the intersection of M140 and Pokagon Road. Suddenly I was hit by a familiar stench, one I had smelled 21 years earlier. I'll be darned, I thought. There's a Bigfoot around here. Shortly thereafter, I arrived at the house. I parked the RV, crawled in the back, and went to bed. I thought it was odd the dogs had not barked, but soon I was fast asleep. The next morning, early, the little honey came knocking hard on the door. "What the hell is wrong with you?" she said. I've been trained to the art of resist interrogations. I quickly turned the tables on her. Quote, "Aw, what's up?" End quote, I replied. "Why were you banging on the garage door last night? You scared the crap out of me and the dogs." "Slow down," I replied. "Tell me what happened." "Well, last night around 1 a.m. I heard something like a knob on an old-time radio being turned quickly. I could hear loud, rapid talking, and I couldn't make out any words. When I looked out with the flashlight, I saw the dogs cowering in their doghouses, scared." My wife's parents lived just east of Berrien Springs, Michigan. The house sat well back off the road and is bordered hundreds of acres of farmland, orchards, vineyards, and some marsh. The room we stayed in when visiting is above the garage. It looked out over the drive and the woods to the west. And just outside there were 3 guard dogs that barked their heads off if a fly farted. This night, however, they refused to even come out. What happened then, I asked. After little honey scanned with the flashlight, she went back to bed to finish her book. A few minutes later, she heard something hitting the roof with a thud. Then something or someone began rattling the garage door, followed by a loud series of bangs in quick succession. She did not know about Bigfoot, but I felt it was time she did. I told her the radio tuning sounds are forms of communications typical to Sasquatch. I also told her, like most apes, when Bigfoots, when scared or threatened, throw things, rocks and trees, etc. She was very skeptical, but had never caught me lying, so, reluctantly, she believed me. I got the ladder and climbed onto the roof, where I found a large handful of rocks, enough to fill my hands, cupped together. The garage door was clearly damaged, as if something big had tried to push up on it. The banging noise was the spring breaking in half. When the garage door repairman arrived, he was amazed. Besides having a sheared spring that would have taken thousands of pounds of force to break, some of the door panels were wrinkled. The repairman said, "It's as if a hydraulic jack had been used to lift the door." Apparently, Bigfoots became agitated, threw rocks at the house, and tried to open the garage door. They were scared off when the spring snapped. I asked the little honey if she could remember anything else. "Yes," she exclaimed. "There was a skunk wandering around too. I could smell it." We spent the rest of the day watching Bigfoot videos on YouTube. She had never seen the Patterson-Gimlin film or any of the hundreds of other clips. I hope you add this report to your collection. With enough testimony, we may one day know exactly what these things are and how to properly deal with them. For now, my advice to anyone who asks is to avoid at all costs. If confronted, do as you would if cornered by a giant grizzly bear. Put your head between your legs and kiss your ass goodbye. Thanks for your time and be safe out there. Best regards, Joe Karcher. Karcher? Ironwood, Michigan. There you go. Welcome to the club, Joe. Hope your wife's okay after you took her through all the videos online, get her up to speed at what's really going on in the real world. It's a bit of a rude awakening for a lot. I remember years back a reaction I took note of, telling an old girlfriend of mine about what I've seen and what's really going on in there, and she got angry. Her reaction was anger, but I think anger and scared is the same thing, basically. Don't you think? Sort of, in some instances. But she just went, "It's a bit much, don't you think?" I'm like, "Whoa, it's not my fault. I'm just telling you the honest truth." "Well, it's just a bit much." And then walked away. Whatever. You've been informed. Did my job. There you go. There's another one. Are they good or bad? Maybe I'll build. I might even do a little poll on the channel here. Maybe I should do that after I get done here. Do a poll and see how many of you believe that these beings are on the dark side, which is negative, evil, bad, or on the light side, the bright, the good. It's be interesting to see where everybody sits on that. Whether you believe these beings are generally good or are they bad. You know? Be interesting at this stage of the game. And we've had a lot of people write in with their experiences, and they love it. They say it's nothing but love, kindness, trust. And then we got other people, very intelligent people who have dug in this topic for many years, saying it is nothing good about it. Don't even kid yourself. There's nothing good about it. All right? It's interesting to hear at this stage of the game, after hearing, I don't know how many thousands of voices here, where everybody's sitting when it comes to that slice. Anyway, another quick mention, I guess I forgot to mention, the rifle, the bolt to my rifle. Found it. How crazy is that? We hunted we had to travel 2 days to get to our destination, and then hunted for a couple of days, and then decided to go the 12 miles to where I lost the bolt to my rifle and walk the path, because I flagged it with flagging tape last November when I was in that deep snow in the dark, flagged my way out. And we looked, but there's a lot of new grass and leaves had fallen, etc., and I didn't see it anywhere. I'm like, oh, shit. Well, I guess this means we have to go drive an hour and a half, couple hours to the next city, which is Fort St. John, British Columbia. Drove there, went to a store, and bought a metal detector. Metal detectors range greatly, and we bought the cheapest one. We tried it in the store. Well, I didn't try it in the store, but we were going over the different ones with the guy that worked at the store, and he had his own. Anyway, narrowed it down to the cheapest one we could. Felt it's going to do what we needed to do, and drove all the way back. Went straight to that place, and I unboxed it, put it together. I tried it over top of my boot with the hooks for my boot laces on my leather boot, and the thing went off, beep, 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 every time I put it across my boot. And I'm like, all right, good enough. And off we went. And I felt like I was an old fart at the beach, going back and forth and along the trail thoroughly as best I could. We found a 7mm Remington mag shell, absolutely corroded, but never not fired. Live round. Found that. And then I went all the way to the end of my hike. Not another beep. I'm like, oh no, this is really sucking. Because what happens if I absolutely lose that rifle bolt, that rifle's done. And it's a custom-built left-handed gun worth originally about $5,000. And the only way to get another bolt for that gun I would have to ship the gun to the U.S. and they would have to machine a bolt to specifically fit my gun. That's not going to happen, especially today. So this is it, right? And I've had that gun a long time. But anyway, I'm lack of sleep. You're tired. It's like, oh no, this sucks. And then we started to hike out, and I go, oh well, maybe I'll try another time. We're just too tired. I used the metal detector walking out. And I'm going down this bank at the beginning. And I did say, I don't think I went up the bank the right way. Took the correct route up this open little face on the side of the brush there. And as I'm walking down the bank, the metal detector went right over top of it. I don't know if it went right over top of it. Didn't detect anything. And then all of a sudden Sarah goes, wait, there it is. And I go, what? She said she just randomly glanced down and saw my boot go like this. And right underneath my foot, she said I literally stepped over it. She could see the shining handle. And there it was, laying there. Got it back. Unbelievable. At first, I was starting to think how somebody took it. Right? Something took it. Maybe. Because as the crow flies, where I lost the bolt to that rifle, it was about maybe a mile or 2 miles from where I lost my knife. Anyways, got it back. So there you go. There's the story. Got my rifle bolt back. And it was stainless steel for anybody Curious. It was like it was brand new. There you go. That's it for today, I believe. Share my story at howtohunt.com. Get your truth shared. I think Sarah's in contact with a handful of people yesterday to come on here with me. And we'll keep powering along. Hopefully I'm going to get my Dodge back today. I'll share more on that tomorrow. And as soon as I get that truck back running, I'm packing it up and I'm out of here. I'm driving 2 days north again, and I'm going to dive into the woods solo. And there you go. It's good to be back. It's good to be sharing voices again. I love it. I'll be back tomorrow.